On the morning of June 27, 1876, a dense quiet settled over the Little Bighorn Valley. 2 days had passed since the battle began. General Alfred Terry's relief column finally marched up the river. Instead of linking up with a victorious 7th Cavalry, they found the besieged, exhausted remnants of Reno and Benteen's commands pinned down on these bluffs. A Crow scout named White Man Runs Him delivered the initial report to Terry's officers. Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, along with 5 companies of his men, had been wiped out. With the battle over, the immediate crisis shifted to the living. Dozens of cavalrymen lay suffering from severe gunshot wounds and dehydration. 1 regimental surgeon had died with Custer, and a 2nd was killed during Reno's retreat. The entire medical burden fell on the single remaining doctor, Assistant Surgeon Henry R. Porter. In the wake of a staggering military defeat, the United States Army put any plans for immediate retaliation on hold. The sole focus narrowed to keeping 51 critically wounded soldiers alive in a hostile wilderness. On June 28th, troops hastily buried the dead in shallow graves across the battlefield. The command then received orders to move the survivors 15 miles downstream toward the mouth of the Little Bighorn River. Colonel John Gibbon's infantrymen cut local saplings to fashion primitive hand litters. As the soldiers carried these awkward stretchers over the uneven prairie ground, every jolt caused intense suffering for the wounded men. By the 29th, it was clear that human bearers could not manage the distance. The troops replaced the hand litters with stretchers suspended between the backs of mules, providing a steadier ride through the rugged terrain. A 15-mile march is a standard military maneuver, but executing it with dozens of incapacitated men required brutal physical exertion. It exposed how isolated the Army was on the frontier. Extracting the injured meant inching forward over raw terrain by sheer muscle power. Waiting at the confluence of the Bighorn River was the Far West. The Army had chartered this shallow draft steamboat strictly to haul forage, ammunition, and campaign supplies. Captain Grant Marsh ordered his crew to clear the cargo and prepare for the casualties. Down on the main deck, beneath the cabin seen here, his men laid a 12-inch bed of freshly cut prairie grass to protect the wounded from the vibrations of the ship's engines. Under the cover of darkness on June 30th, the crew carefully loaded the injured soldiers. They draped the boat in black mourning cloth and lowered the flag to half-mast. Marsh transformed the vessel into a floating hospital and a funeral barge, carrying the survivors of a broken regiment downriver. This map charts the extraction route. Captain Marsh began the voyage by cautiously feeling his way down the shallow, mud-clogged waters of the Bighorn River, navigating a channel barely wide enough for his hull. Once the boat cleared the Bighorn and hit the deeper currents of the Yellowstone and Missouri rivers, Marsh pushed his boilers to their absolute limit. The careful navigation accelerated into a full-throttle race. The Far West covered 710 miles of winding river. They completed the journey in 54 hours. The paddle wheeler ran day and night. In an era when upper Missouri riverboats routinely tied up at dusk to avoid submerged trees, Marsh drove blindly through the dark to keep the wounded men moving toward medical care. Marsh's seamanship and willingness to risk the vessel resulted in a speed record that remains unsurpassed in the history of steamboating on the upper Missouri. Late on the night of July 5th, the Far West nosed into the Bismarck landing. The crew carried the wounded ashore to the post hospital, located here at Fort Abraham Lincoln. But Captain Marsh didn't stop. He sprinted from the docks into the wooden storefronts of Bismarck, racing to reach the local telegraph office. Inside, telegraph operator J.M. Carnahan sat at his key. He tapped out a terse initial message to the War Department, officially confirming the rumors of disaster. Over the next 24 hours, Carnahan remained at his station, transmitting 50,000 words of military dispatches. Among them were the surviving field notes of Mark Kellogg, an Associated Press correspondent who died alongside the cavalry. The Bismarck telegraph office served as a hard boundary. It was the exact coordinate where a brutal physical struggle in the Montana Territory was translated into instant electric data. That data hit the East Coast while millions were gathering at the massive international exhibition in Philadelphia to celebrate the nation's 100th birthday. America was showcasing its industrial progress and celebrating the rapid settlement of the continent. The sudden news of a devastating military defeat at the hands of indigenous warriors sharply interrupted the national celebration. The loss of Custer, the Army's boy general, interrupted the optimism of the Centennial. For a nation celebrating its industrial achievements, this defeat was a reminder that the West was not yet won. Marsh's 54-hour run succeeded in delivering the wounded to safety. But by delivering the news with such speed, he turned a tactical defeat in a remote valley into a national mandate for further conquest across the plains. If artifacts over orthodoxy history is your thing, this is Crazy Horse Chronicles. Subscribe and keep questioning the baseline. And as always, an AI research tool was used to help surface some of the historical sources for this video.